So let's start here. This is a 49-year-old, and they're looking to contribute a 50K lump plus do $1,500 a month. That's the goal. And it's very simple. So if we are talking about structure of this policy, max funded, option B, IUL with leverage. Max funded is saying what is the least amount possible, least amount of life insurance possible we can buy for that 50K and $1,500 a month. What is the least amount of life insurance legally possible for that dollar amount? Option B is saying as I contribute that $1,500 a month, I want make sure my death benefit is continuing to increase. And then again, we're building this inside of an IUL, and then at some point, leverage is going to kick in, meaning we're going to add other people's money to actually generate and create more cash value. So I've already built the illustration, and again, it's a lot of information, but follow me. There's a lot of information on this sheet, and I think these illustrations are kind of meant to confuse. But the truth is they're actually really easy to understand and figure out how to read. And again, our goal is to identify whether it's max funded, option B, IUL, and does it include the leverage, right? That's the objective. And so first off, the question is, if I'm putting in $1,500 a month and a lump sum of $50,000, which means in year one, I'm putting in $68,000. I can make this bigger, I guess. I'm putting in $68,000. The question is, am I buying the least amount of life insurance legally possible? And so of that 68,000 is buying me 1.2 million. Is that the least amount possible? The best way to find out is the $68,000, how close is that $68,000 that you're putting into this policy, how close is it to the MEC limit? MEC limit is saying that's the maximum amount you can get into a policy like this without causing the policy to collapse. And so in this document is this little thing called the guideline max. So notice the guideline max is approximately 68,000. So if I'm putting in 68,000 and my guideline max is 68,000, that means this policy is max funded. I'm putting in the maximum amount possible and I'm buying the least amount of life insurance legally possible for that amount. And in this case, that minimum amount that I'm buying is about, or the minimum amount of life insurance that I'm buying is $1.29 million. So is it max funded? Absolutely. Is it option B? What does that mean? As I contribute over the years, is my death benefit continuing to get bigger? Why does that matter? Well, if my cash value is continuing to get bigger, that means that's more, I'll call it access to leverage that I'm able to use as income or pay bills or invest from. So is the death benefit increasing as I continue to contribute to this policy? Well, if you come over here to the death benefit, you'll notice that each year it started out at, let me go back, started out at 1.29 million. And so by the end of year one, it's 1.358, then 1.4, then 1.45, and so on. Bottom line is, as I continue to contribute to this policy, the death benefit continues to get bigger, which means what? Yeah, it's option B. This is obviously an IUL, so we're fine there. And then the question is, what about the leverage? And this is kind of how the question started. It was, one, how is it possible? I'm a bit skeptical. This policy doesn't have the match in it. You told me that this policy was going to have match. And what I tried to explain is, look, I can't illustrate something that hasn't happened. What you're looking at is a baseline policy. When the match kicks in, meaning when the leverage goes into this policy, every number in this document changes. So what that means is, even though you're seeing numbers in this document, right? These numbers mean nothing once the leverage kicks in, because when the leverage kicks in, every number from that point forward changes, which means you need an updated document. So the reason the leverage isn't here is because it hasn't happened yet. And in addition, let's talk about how money grows inside of a policy like this. It's actually illustrated. Well, there's three buckets. The first bucket is this guaranteed bucket. Then there's this alternate scale. And then there's this non-guaranteed bucket. We do not focus on the guaranteed. We do not focus on the non-guaranteed, the alternate scale. Why is that? Well, that is because this guaranteed section is based off if the market crashed every year, this is how your dollars would perform in this document. What's the likelihood of the market crashing every year? It's not. So there's no point in looking at the guaranteed. The alternate scale is saying, okay, maybe the market didn't crash every year, but what if it crashed every other year? So again, what's the likelihood of that happening? Not. Whereas this non-guaranteed section, the non-guaranteed section is based off what would happen if we use the average performance over time at a lesser rate. Meaning, this is illustrated at, let me find my laser. This is illustrated at about 6.33%. What is the actual performance over time for a product like this? The actual performance somewhere around 6.87 to 7.2. So it's about 0.5% less than what actual performance is. So the bottom line is this illustration is being based off something less than that, meaning it's meant to underpromise, but yet and still overdeliver. So we focused on the non-guaranteed section. And now let's go back here and get rid of some of this stuff. It's kind of busy. So we are contributing a $50,000 lump sum plus $1,500 a month in year one. And then we're contributing that same $50,000 lump sum plus another $1,500 a month, which equates to 18 grand a year in month two. So these are the two contributions in month one and month two. And then from every year after that, from year three on, the only contribution is 18 grand a year, which is $1,500 a month. So that is the outlay of this illustration. So what happens at year three in a strategy like this, as we've discussed many times? What happens in a strategy like this is when you contribute consecutively in year one and year two, starting in year three, the life insurance company adds everything from year three. The life insurance company adds everything from year one into year three, meaning starting in year three, there's leverage that's going to be added of somewhere around 50K so that it meets what you've contributed in total at year three. So again, you've only put in 18 grand, but the life insurance company is going to add 50. So what does it look like when we add leverage into this policy? Well, we've got it. It's in right here. So what happens when we add leverage into this policy, that means the day-to-day or the month, year-to-year performance inside this policy shifts. Meaning in year one, it looks the same. In year two, it looks the same. But starting in year three, when you put in your 18,000, the life insurance company matches whatever that MEC limit was from year one and year two. So you've put in 18,000, but the life insurance company adds an additional 50. So again, you've only put in 18, but the life insurance company's added 50. That is what the leverage looks like. And this continues for some period of time, meaning that $50,000 gets added, and we chose to jump this policy at year seven. It could be sooner. Does not have to be here. I just wanted to kind of, I'll call it, illustrate what it looks like when you add leverage every year. Your responsibility from this point, from year two on, is just simply your 18 grand every month. I'm sorry, 18 grand every year, $1,500 a month. But the leverage being added, notice how it compounds. Notice how it gets larger at year 10. Notice how it gets larger at year 11. Notice how it gets larger at year, I guess that's year 7, from year 7 to year 6 to year 7. So this leverage could actually start every odd year if we wanted it to. This is just a high-level example of what it looks like when leverage is added to this policy. And that performance of the cash value over time when this leverage added is also shown here. If you were to compare these two policies, and again, I know I'm moving fast. If you were to compare these two policies, the cash flow difference is really not that great. And it's a simple reason why. Here, let me show you what I mean. If you take a look at, let's just say year 5. At year 5, the amount of cash value available after 5 years in the bare bones policy is about $178,690. But in the leverage policy, what is that same dollar amount at year 5? How about $184,364? So again, at the same point in time, one with leverage, one without leverage, the difference is what, 10 grand? I'm going to say that's not that great, but here's why. I legally cannot illustrate something that hasn't happened. So this policy that shows this leverage being added, Notice this column here, it says loan balance. This column that is adding the leverage every year, I legally cannot illustrate the amount of leverage being added at more than 0.5%. So what that means is when I add 50,000 at year 3 from year 4, the amount of growth between those two dollar amounts cannot be more than 0.5% of the additional leverage. Meaning I'm not even being illustrated at the actual 6.33%. It's being illustrated as something far less than that. And so because it's being illustrated as something far less than that, these numbers don't look that great. But my point to that is this: it doesn't matter, because what's the goal? The goal is, hey, do I have a policy that is max funded? Is it option B? Is it an IUL? And can I add leverage to it? The answer is yes. I have the right structure. And because I have the right structure, what that means is as it continues to grow, all of these numbers are going to change. All of these numbers are going to evolve because I have the right structure to be able to produce the dollar amount that's required. What that actual dollar amount will be will change. And now let me show you what I mean.